Well, this is one, thank you for taking time out to speak with
Sure.
us today. I don't know, we've been doing this podcast for about 6.5 years, and I'm 45, so because of this podcast, I was lucky enough to really, I of course I loved the hits of Kiss, but because of the podcast, we did Destroyer first, really early on, and I had Jeff Ross, the Roastmaster General, as my
Sure.
guest, and his love for the band rubbed off on me. His excitement, like I felt it,
I
and
think
then
I think it's nice for people to allow themselves that kind of excitement, regardless whether it's for us or something else. I think there's a fanboy in all of us for whatever we choose, and we shouldn't leave that behind.
100%. And then it was perfect timing because shortly after that, you did a one-nighter at the Whiskey. And I knew a guy that wanted to be a comic that was a door guy there. And he told me, he goes, I want you and Bill Burr to come. Bill was too busy. So I snuck in, had VIP, got to watch my first Kiss concert at the Whiskey, one of the most legendary venues ever. And you put on the most, what I would assume is still the exact same show, maybe of course, on a smaller stage, but it blew me away, the energy in the room. And then on top of that, you were introed by my now friend, Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine. And I was lucky enough to be able to talk to him about Kiss, about his love for Kiss. And then that started our friendship. And now, years later, we've been on the podcast and we've worked together, but this has been such a great journey to get to this moment, to be able to sit down and talk to you for what is one of the most important records of your career. So,
For sure.
so I have a little spiel, Paul. So I'm going to read through this to catch the audience up. And I want you at any moment, if you want to cut me off, correct me. This is just to catch everybody up. It's a little bit long-winded, but just feel free, interject at any moment. Okay. All right. So because we did Destroyer with Jeff Ross earlier, which is the album that followed up today's record, and because once again, we're beyond fortunate to have a guest who can verify or deny any of this, let's get a quick catch up to get us to today's record. Rhythm guitarist and vocalist Paul Stanley and bassist and vocalist Gene Simmons had previously been in a New York City band called Wicked Lester that recorded an album for Epic Records in '72. That record was never released due to the dissatisfaction with the sound, both by the label and by Paul and Gene, and they left the band shortly thereafter. Their intention was to create a new version of Wicked Lester that would be capable of representing everything they felt was lacking in the current music scene. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think what we realized as time went on, as grateful as we were to be in Electric Lady Studios, which is hallowed ground, that was Jimi Hendrix's studio, and to get in there was like to get into the Fort Knox of rock. So what we realized as time went on, as fortunate as we were, was that there was no cohesiveness. There was nothing about the Wicked Lester album that was done over a course of a year and was done on what we call spec time. We couldn't afford time in a studio. So what would happen is someone would book a session, let's say that was supposed to end at midnight. We would be at the studio at 11 p.m. waiting. And if they left at midnight, we would jump in and go till the next session. Or we would wind up sitting there all night. Anyway, I think that over the course of the year that we recorded it, we certainly did whatever. I don't want to say anything we were told, but we were so grateful to be there that if a hit song had a banjo, we put a banjo on a song.
Sure.
If another song had a ukulele, oh yeah, we put a ukulele on. So I think what Gene and I just realized was that this wasn't what we wanted to do. And although it was insane, we basically tried to get rid of the other guys in the band. And they said, well, we're not going. So we said, well, we are. And we left.
There you go. Because of that, then you placed ads. And after a bunch of auditions, you added a drummer and vocalist, Peter Criss, and guitarist Ace Frehley.
Yes.
So then you soon changed their name to Kiss, And as a way to buck the trend of bands still looking like hippies and farmers, they adopted the kabuki style makeup and costumes that have come to define their image. Their music.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, please interrupt, dude.
I'm good at that. What happened was there was this amazing fertile rock scene in New York City. Really, it was regardless of whether the music was great, the excitement and the sense of like a renaissance of sorts was going on. So it was the time of Mercer Arts Center, which was down in the West Village and Max's Kansas City and places where a lot of people were hanging out. So it was also a time of kind of like an androgyny. I remember seeing the Dolls with Gene, and we too at that point were kind of going for this kind of like weird androgynous look, and we looked like linebackers in drag. And
at CBGB's or where?
That was at the Hotel Diplomat, which was I think 44th Street, and that basically was a place where you could rent a ballroom and throw a dance or a concert, because we couldn't get booked into clubs. Most of the bands couldn't because they didn't play top 40. So except for a few venues, you promote yourselves. But at the Diplomat, we saw the Dolls, and as charismatic and larger than life as they were, they weren't the greatest band, but there was no denying how great they looked for that time. And I mean, my waist is as big as one of their wrists. I mean, it was like, we looked at those guys and thought two things: we'll kill them, and we got to get rid of all this glam stuff. And that's where we basically said, let's go black and white. And then it's
leather.
All right, perfect. All right, so cool. You made a 5-song demo with famed Led Zeppelin and Jimi Hendrix producer Eddie Kramer, and were soon signed by Neil Bogart to the burgeoning Casablanca Records label. In little over a year, Casablanca Records put out 3 Kiss albums. While the records themselves were not selling well, the band was gaining momentum through word of mouth about their live shows. In fact, many established headlining acts who had Kiss as openers would refuse to follow them due to Kiss's onstage prowess. Go ahead.
I think some of those bands were smarter than that. They just throw us off the tour. That way you don't have to follow anybody. You don't let, we reached a point early on where the dilemma was bands didn't want us playing with them. And we were breaking uncharted territory. We were doing a show with pyro and a Kiss sign behind us, and that was unheard. First of all, it wasn't the norm. It was unheard of, and I think it threw a lot of headliners off when they saw they were going on with a Kiss sign behind them. So it reached a point where actually our record company president, Neil Bogart, had a meeting with us and said, we can't find anybody who will tour with you. Can't you play worse? So
I mean, it's the same thing in comedy. It's like there's certain middle acts that have put the fear of God in the headliners. Like I've seen headliners pacing. They say that like Burr said Dane Cook did that when he was first starting. So it's like you can't stop somebody that's when the momentum and there's real talent and energy, and it's hard to follow that.
And why should you? Once we became a headliner, we became well known for supporting our support acts, our opening acts. I think if you have to tie somebody's hand behind their back to beat them in a fight, that doesn't say anything about you. So our mentality once we became a headliner was go out there and be the best you can. We'll give you the lights, we'll give you everything. And then it's up to us to justify why we're the headliner. If we have to handicap you to do that, we didn't learn our lesson.
Exactly.
But I want
So-
to fast forward past the point that you became a headline. Like, it's interesting to me. So was it DIY, kind of the pyro and all that you brought to the table to show that you were a headliner at that point, or not yet?
I all of that was important, of course, the personas and the pyro and all that. But honestly, you can paint a car with candy apple red, and if there's no engine in it, it doesn't go anywhere. So really, it was about our connection to the audience. I think in the best of ways, we were a wake-up call, starting up in clubs, but going on, we were a wake-up call to audiences to not accept apathy or a sense of someone doing you a favor by playing for you. You paid. And as somebody who grew up going to the Fillmore East and seeing everybody from Jimi Hendrix and Zeppelin to The Who, Humble Pie, Derek and the Dominoes, that was where I came from. But we wanted to acknowledge the audience and make the audience part of the experience. Make them, it's a perfect word is reciprocity.
Yeah.
You feed off as a comic. It's the same thing. You feed off your audience, and by acknowledging and making them important, you keep raising the bar. So that's really what it all grew out of, was wanting to be the band we never saw.
Yeah. So the band and the label really noticed the popularity that you were getting in the Rust Belt, but they couldn't figure out how to translate that energy into record sales. And with all the pyrotechnics and unique stage and light designs every night, the cost to maintain that spectacle must have been beyond expensive. And the band was hemorrhaging money. And to top it all off, Casablanca had not been paying them even the meager royalties that they were owed. And then the label made a huge misstep by putting out a double album of highlights from Johnny Carson's Tonight Show, which bombed. So not only were Kiss in financial straits, but the record label looked like it might go out of business as well. A lawsuit to breach of contract was filed by the band toward the label for unpaid royalties. So taking one big last risky shot, Neil Bogart and the band decided that they should record a live record to try and capture the spirit, the concert experience for those who hadn't seen them yet.
Partially
Pardon?
true.
Yeah.
Yes, we were in tremendous debt. Luckily, when you have no money, you don't have the pressure of debt.
There it is. Yeah.
Our manager was deep into debt, and that showed his commitment to us. He didn't have money to pay his credit card off either, but he was hundreds of thousands into debt. And matter of fact, once we started to become successful, I did an interview, and an interviewer said to me, "How does it feel to be rich and famous?" And I said, "I can tell you how it feels to be famous."
That's the worst. Being famous and broke. Oh,
yeah.
God.
So really, Bill O'Coin, who was the closest thing to a fifth member of the band. He was our manager. And much like other things in the band that would take course over time, Bill was not a manager, never managed a band before, but it felt right. He felt like the right person, like the right chemistry. Anyway, at some point, he literally said, "We're doing a live album." And really? And he knew more than we did. It was very clear that we were building up this big following, but it wasn't transferring to sales, record sales.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was pretty obvious because the records didn't sound like us. It didn't have the ferocity, the piss and vinegar, the bombast.
Yeah.
So he showed us an album by a British band, great band, who somehow over time has fallen by the wayside, Uriah Heep. And they had a live album in England. That became the template for Kiss Alive. And we basically built from there. we rehearsed. We also recorded some of our concerts leading up to the recording of that, just to get a better sense of what we were doing live.
Test it out.
Yeah, and we found out we played quite fast, and that's great in a live experience. But if you go home, what you're basically at the mercy of is a tempo that's a bit jarring. So we slowed ourselves down and honed what we were doing. By no means were we ever under the illusions of being virtuosos. We were virtuosos, you know.
So the reasoning's simple. A live album could be cheaply recorded from a few shows with a mobile truck rather than having to pay for the band to be in a professional studio for weeks or months with a producer and engineer and staff to make another record. But with no money to go ahead.
But I'm going to keep interrupting. But
please,
it wasn't a matter of economics. It was another album, a fourth album would have been pointless because the problem would still be there. And the problem was that our album sonically and viscerally, they didn't capture the zeitgeist. There's a word I've never used before.
Oh, first time.
Of what we were doing. Yes, you have the distinction of bringing out zeitgeist from me. There you go.
There it is. So, no money to go on tour. Kiss manager Bill Aucoin financed the Dress to Kill tour with $300,000 of his own money, with demo producer Eddie Kramer back to produce. 4 nights at 4 venues were chosen. Those were May 16th at Cabo Arena in Detroit, Michigan, June 21st at Cleveland Music Hall in Cleveland, Ohio, July 20th at RKO Orpheum Theater in Davenport, Iowa, and July 23rd at Convention Hall in Wildwood, New Jersey. There had been notable live albums released, but there had been notable live albums released by rock bands. But this was a double album coming in at almost 80 minutes by a band that had no substantial radio airplay and was only regionally moderately successful. Much has been said, theorized, and confessed about how live the final record was. But regardless, and along with the many photos of the band on stage and on set, Beyond served its purpose of giving the listeners at home the experience of being at a complete Kiss concert, featuring all the overlooked songs and their first 3 records. Kiss had arrived and would remain household names to this day. The album went on to sell over 9 million records worldwide and remains the most popular release. And this year, Kiss Alive is celebrating its 50th anniversary.
Amazing.
And I know that was long, and so I'm sorry, but we want to give this record the respect you and it deserves. So let's just get right into the songs, and I'm going to do a little something different because we know we have a limited amount of time. So what I want to do is we're gonna hit the main songs, and if we have more, go ahead, please.
Let me interrupt you.
Do it.
You know, when people talk about the controversy of how much is live and how much whatever, the absurdity of a band like us doing a live album, meaning putting microphones in front of an amplifier. There's bands who are limited and have nothing to gain by doing more because that's all that they do.
Yeah.
Live albums historically were something that you didn't even know were live until the end of
a cash grab.
You heard some people clapping.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
We wanted to create a sonic souvenir. We wanted to, the word that's used so much now is immerse. We wanted an immersive experience. And that was going to take more than just putting microphones in front of a PA system. So yes, we wanted to put you in the crowd. We wanted to surround you with people. We wanted the explosions, which usually will shut down a microphone. It just kind of compresses. Yeah. We wanted it to be what you remembered, not fake, but we wanted you to have what you experienced. So did we work on it? Hell yeah. I mean, and nonetheless, it is as honest and accurate a sonic depiction of those shows.
I mean, it's not just getting out of what I've read, but it's a phenomenal live record. I mean, it really does capture everything that you expect from Kiss, or at least I was expecting from Kiss. So let's dive into it because there's so many great songs on here. Excuse me. Deuce. So this one holds a special place for fans of your Kiss story because this is reportedly the song that you guys played with Ace for his audition that cemented the band. Yeah. With a bass line that Gene has said was inspired by Bitch by the Rolling Stones and a guitar part inspired by the Raspberries. Go All the Way. Gene has said that he didn't know what the title actually refers to. Go ahead.
All true.
But we know Deuce means two of something, and we know that less than a week after this record's release, your manager, Bill Aucoin, reportedly went into Casablanca Records president Neil Bogart's office and informed him Kiss was leaving the label, which pushed Neil into writing you guys a check for $2 million.
I don't, if there was a check for $2 million, I didn't see it. What certainly did happen fortuitously for Casablanca is that the album took off so that they were able to pay us royalties that they were in arrears from. When we signed with Casablanca, Casablanca was a offshoot of Warner Brothers. And unbeknownst initially to Neil or Casablanca, Warner Brothers hated Kiss and sent in a memo saying, screw this, and that was Casablanca's out from Warner Brothers. So as far as Deuce, I'm all over the place because I was there.
Please.
But as far as Deuce, Gene had this riff, and most of the song, we were very collaborative at that point.
Sorry. So good.
So, hey, Jay, turn this down.
Yeah, you got it.
So I've got to ask you, what's the most? Go ahead.
You're used to having the mic and holding on to it for dear life, but my hands are bigger. So, yes, I was a big fan of the Raspberries.
Yeah.
And they had a song, Go All the Way. And the best I could make out of the voicing of the beginning of the song, I built on that. And I said, how about this for a beginning? Because the song had no beginning. So thankfully, the beginning in its own way became very iconic. But the song is terrific.
Great song. I got to ask, what's the most ridiculous thing you bought when you got that first big paycheck?
Depends on whose definition of ridiculous.
You tell us.
Actually, when I was 15 or 16, I got a record deal and got very little money up front, but I bought my parents a washing machine.
There it is.
Then when Kiss took off, I got my parents a car. We used to drive cars until they literally fell apart on the street.
Oh, same, dude.
Take the license plates off, and it's somebody else's problem.
Yeah.
Don't do that. And the next thing I did was I said to my parents, find a house. And they found a house. I grew up very marginally. I don't even think we were middle class. I didn't know what that was, but my parents never had a house and never had a car. So the first things I did were about taking care of my parents.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's great. That's great. All right, Stutter. I think along with Deuce, these two songs established the rock and roll swagger of Gene and you, respectively. This is the first song on your debut album, and surprisingly, one of the few that you and Gene wrote together when you rewrote lyrics to his existing song, Stanley the Parrot. I think because of the tight partnership you and Gene, many casual listeners of the band had assumed that you guys had a sort of Lennon and McCartney writing partnership, but you really only had a small handful of songs that you truly wrote together.
Well, I don't want to. That's rarefied air, when you talk about Lennon, McCartney, and the Beatles. I will say that in the same way as they worked, very often Gene and I worked on each other's songs and didn't necessarily give each other credit. We just weren't. It didn't matter unless it was very much a co-write. We just helped each other out. Strutter was it was a good set of chords, but his song was nothing like Strutter, and it wasn't a great song. And much slower. And when we sped it up, and I was a huge fan and still am of the Stones and Keith Richards, really a big fan of good rhythm guitar players, and took it up to a different feel and a different speed. And the New York scene, as I said, was all about fashion and women dressed, in fishnet stockings and satins and all. Mind you, they wanted nothing to do with us, but it was kind of like projecting, putting myself into that kind of life, and singing about the women I saw on 8th Street in the Village. That was a song. To this day, if you ask Gene who wrote what, that's a point of contention for both of us. Who wrote who?
Oh, interesting.
Who came up with the name Strutter? I did.
Did you here, JK? Did you go over to each other's homes with acoustic guitars? Like,
we didn't. As a rule, by then we had a rehearsal space, and Gene and I would meet there with 2 acoustic guitars, nothing plugged in. Look, if a song can't be played on an acoustic guitar or on a piano, it's a crappy song. If you're going to say, well, wait till you hear, the sirens in the background, or wait till you hear, what we add, that's icing on the cake. So we came from a different school. We came from, the Carole King, Jerry Goffin, Barry Mann, Cynthia Weil. The songwriters who wrote and crafted songs. We weren't a jam band. We wanted a song with an intro, a verse, a chorus, a pre-chorus, a bridge. So we would get together, and that really was both of our mindsets. We were huge fans of certain writers and of the Beatles and a lot of other bands. Anglophiles, loved British music.
Was there an understanding of who would be the lead singer in the band, or was it just a natural, like, whoever wrote the part in the song, oh, they're the lead singer for that? How did you decide?
Yeah, as a rule, I'd say that the person whose vision it was more just naturally was the singer. I felt organically, as I think Gene did, that certain songs belonged with a certain voice or a certain point of view. The only place I was adamant was everybody needs to shut up on stage and I'll do the talking.
Yeah. And we also know that Ace wasn't comfortable singing lead on his songs, but you guys also showcased Peter, and we'll get to that in a little bit later. So got to choose. Okay, every Kiss fan has their favorite songs and there is an unending list of famous Kiss fans. And I just found out about one of the coolest fan project you guys made. And you are having some of your biggest fans curate a quarterly 40-song playlist that they get to choose from your entire catalog that is available on Spotify and YouTube. The second handpicked playlist, titled My Kiss, is by renowned host and music journalist Allison Hagendorf, who is also a good friend and colleague of our good friend and former guest Matt Pinfield, who we wish the best continued healing wishes.
And he's doing so much better. And Allison's
good,
a gem.
She really is. Yeah, I've met her a few times when we were working with Spotify, and she's great. Rip too. She's like a big CrossFitter. So
yeah,
dude.
God. When we get together, we show each other our biceps, and I think she's got the beat.
Me too.
So Allison's playlist debuted alongside a Q&A with her that is featured on the Kiss website and Kiss Army newsletter. Allison conducted the final interview at Madison Square Garden and Kiss's final show, and hosted Paul on her show, The Allison Hagendorf Show, for his first interview post-Kiss, as she is a high-ranking member of the Kiss Army. As she explains, this playlist is my celebration of Kiss in full. I wanted to create something that touches every era of their career, something that captures the essence of what made them so iconic, but also feels personal to what I love about them. And we give all the links here and in our posts. So I want to make sure, like, the fans really want to know something. What are a few of your choices for favorite Kiss songs that you think deserve more recognition and that maybe you love to play out sometime beyond your wealth of hits?
I have to say that the songs that become most popular arguably are the best songs.
You really?
Yeah. I went to see I went to see the Stones once in LA at the Wilshire Theater, I think it was. And it was a night they were going to play all, what were the tracks, what do we call them? Like, like the least known tracks.
Oh,
and
deep cuts. Exactly.
Deep cuts. Well, the reason you have to dig for them is because they're not that great. You're digging. Was it worth the dig? So no, I kind of stand by most of the songs of ours that have made it. I mean, Love Gun, pretty damn good. Got to Choose.
Good.
Yes, yeah. Got to Choose is a great song. A really, really great song. Detroit Rock City,
classic,
and God of Thunder, and there's just so many great songs. Plaster Caster. There's lots of great songs, and I would say that the ones that are most popular, exactly, popularity comes from the people. Popularity comes from the masses embracing something. Nobody puts a gun to their head. So it's almost like water finds its own level. The songs that have become the most popular, there's a reason.
Yeah. The set list that you had at the Whiskey was phenomenal. Everything that I was looking forward to that you played, and it's just the sound. It's like I'm seeing you guys at this Raw Rock Club. Amazing. I hope one day, maybe if we're lucky, to be able to see you in a big arena, and who knows. But let's skip ahead to Firehouse. So this is one, if not your oldest songs, that you first brought to Wicked Lester and then played when Kiss was a trio before Ace joined. This is also famously where Gene has his fire-breathing moment in concert as the song ends. I want to ask you guys, setting the world on fire in another way, as I've mentioned, artists had put out live albums before, but nobody had put out an entire live album made up of songs that hadn't been hits in their earlier recorded forms. And then after a live lit the fuse, a year later, Peter Frampton's Frampton Comes Alive did the same thing to massive success and was followed up by artists like Cheap Trick and Billy Joel. Did you feel like Kiss had blazed a trail in that respect?
I think that we've always adhered to the rule of no rules. I don't know. Certainly, a good idea, becomes followed. What's the saying? Success has many parents and failure is an orphan. You know,
Mhm.
so yeah, we did something and it worked, and whether honestly, I remember hearing from people, oh, Frampton's album's not, you know, some of it's been re-recorded. Who cares?
Yeah,
Who cares how you get somewhere if you arrive? That's all that matters.
sure.
Um, as far as Firehouse came about. It became the vehicle for Gene's fire breathing. Although the song existed, I wrote that. I was still in high school, I think, when I wrote Firehouse. And
Yeah.
as I said, I was a huge Anglophile. Loved the British bands, many that never made it in America. And once a week, I would take the bus and the subway down to 8th Street in the Village, and they had an international newsstand, and I pick up the British music weeklies, Melody Maker, Sounds, New Music Express, and I was just enamored and fascinated with bands that looked really cool,
Yeah,
that really had a style, and music. Their music was braver. It was, it was less self-indulgent. It was less about. It wasn't insular. It was celebrating. So
yeah.
Firehouse was there was a disc jockey in New York named Scott Muni, and Scott had a uh, radio program once a week called the British Power Hour, and he would play the top 10 from England, and I was glued to listening to that. And most of those songs meant nothing in America, and there was a band called The Move, and The Move, fantastic band, and Roy Wood uh, was really a great writer, uh, and ultimately Jeff Lynne joined The Move, and then they started ELO, and
Mm.
that all fell apart. Anyway, I digress. What happened was I heard a song by The Move called Fire Brigade. Now, Fire Brigade, basically, a fire brigade is a firehouse. Um, and the song was, this girl really sets the place, sets me on fire, so run and get the fire brigade. And I couldn't afford to buy those records, so I wrote my own. So Fire Brigade became Firehouse, and the topic was basically, it's just an Americanized version. Has very little in common with Fire Brigade except the subject matter. But yeah, I a lot of songs that I wrote were kind of homages to the bands and songs that I loved.
No, totally, totally. And with Alive, it's made up of songs from the first three records. Was there a sense of vindication about the material not having clicked earlier?
We were never going to be a top 40 band. We were
Sure.
never going to be a band with hit songs per se. And again, what Alive was about capturing was the experience. Um, Even Rock and Roll All Night, which was on Dress to Kill, didn't really make any impact. It was a song that needed an audience. It was a song that needed to be a rallying cry. And so many of our songs were about shout it out loud. Um, Rock and Roll All Night. We sang songs um, that were not unlike Sly and the Family Stone, who were singing I Want to Take You Higher,
Mhm.
or Dance to the Music. Before there were anthems, there was a need for, and once in a while, a song would come out that was a rallying cry. And that's really what we were going for. Were songs about us. because us was them.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, moving on to Watching You. So I want to use the title of this to bring up a question about the band's visual appeal from a previous 500 guest who we've had on. Huge Kiss Army. Our friend Ronnie Barnett from a band called the Muffs, who is a general in the Kiss Army. So he wanted to ask this because we went deep with this interview. So Alive was the first album cover designed by Dennis Wallach. Did I say that right? Wallach?
Wallach, yeah.
Wallach. He had previously worked for an advertising company, and this was the first album cover he designed. He would continue to design every Kiss album cover, including compilations, solo albums, and etc., through 1988. Donnie wants to know, how important does Paul think he and his visual creations were to your success?
With no disrespect to Dennis or anyone, there were some album covers that were mine. I mean, the direction was mine, whether it was Love Gun, Crazy Night, Animalize, Asylum. Those were all album covers that either came through my direction or my hand. Actually, Animalize, for example, I put a bunch of fur piece samples I got down on a tabletop, and we shot it. So,
I mean, it's legendary.
I certainly
branding and everything.
Yeah, let's see. Rock and Roll Over, Love Gun, Crazy Nights. Those. Let's just say I had a big hand in those. And Love Gun, I spoke with Ken Kelly, who painted it, and the idea was, let's have us on the front cover with almost like Vampirella type women at our feet, and on the back cover will be the same space with all of us gone, and you're supposed to figure out where we all went. So Dennis was a conduit, and also politically, we weren't about putting our individual names on things for what we did.
Yeah.
So, look, I designed stages. I designed the Dynasty stage. I literally drew it out.
Wow.
The spider stage that we had with these trusses that became like spider legs. I designed that. I drew it. So there was no need for me to go me.
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to either. But I've had a good amount of input. Certainly, a lot of the clothes we've worn.
Sure. So we want to ask this. We're very, very curious. There's a rumor that Ronnie wants to know, and he asked, it's rumored that Peter's handwritten note in the booklet was not written by him, and that the back cover was not actually shot at a Kiss show, as there's no audience members in Kiss makeup. Is that true or false?
To the first point,
Yes.
That is absolutely Peter's handwriting. Absolutely. I know Peter's handwriting. And yes, that each one of those were written by each one of us. As far as the back cover cover from Kiss Alive.
Yes.
With everybody in Cobo Hall.
So that is at a Kiss concert then?
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, Detroit was the first place we really broke out of. Detroit has always been so blue collar and so rock and Motown and music. So when we were still an opening act in most parts of the country, we were headlining in Detroit. I often said they opened their arms and legs to us. It was it was the first place where we really were understood. So hence Detroit Rock City.
Sure,
We
sure.
had fantastic connections to different cities, but Detroit was something very, very unique and was there from the get-go. But yes, the back cover is Cobo Hall from
Okay.
Kiss Alive, and yes, that is Peter's handwriting.
Okay, there you go. He's going to be very happy to find that out. All right, moving on to 100,000 years. So I
Mhm.
want to ask you about a true legacy beyond the millions, billions, platinum, and virtual world of Kiss in perpetuity. Kids are our closest shot of immortality. And at a recent occurrence, alongside the pairing up of Sean Lennon and James McCartney writing together, is the announcement that your son Evan and Gene's son Nick have been working on a new project together, seemingly tentatively called Stanley Simmons. My writer Morty, who actually is on the line right now, knows Nick and Evan, has played a good time at Davy Wayne's, where Morty spins as he vouches for their true talent beyond their part of a dynasty. Obviously, Kiss had Evan's band, Amber Wild, open during the last leg of their final tour, End of the Road. So fans are already aware of him, but the excitement on social media about this is heating up with each new post. How off the charts is your pride when you hear them? And was there any of that old Jewish parent stereotype of wanting the kids to either go into the family business or become doctors or lawyers or something like that?
I think the most we can hope for our children is that they're happy.
Yeah.
And that they're content with who they are, and don't suffer from a sense of entitlement. Um, you know, to have Evan and Nick together is, I was just talking with Sarah, my daughter, last night about it. It's wonderful. It's they've known each other their whole lives, and all of a sudden they're thick as thieves. I mean, the two of them, they sound terrific. Nick has a phenomenal voice, which I don't know that most people have heard. And Evan's a great writer, great singer, crazy guitar player. And what they've created is organic. What they've created can't be manipulated. It can't be fabricated. And this album they're doing with Rob Cavallo, who Green Day and Goo Goo Dolls and I think trying to think who else. I mean, Rob is just the good. So it's great, and I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled that they're together. And yeah, when I see them together, it's poignant. There's a word I don't use that often, but to see the two of them together. Last week, Gene and I were just like, who would have thought?
Yeah.
And that's what makes life so amazing is the surprises along the way. So
100%. And are you the kind of dad that gives advice with encouragement, or are you hands off and let them do their own thing?
With this, I'm stepping back, but always there for an opinion if
Sure.
asked for. Evan, I'll say one of the amazing qualities about him is he's always been, tell me, what do you think? How can this be better? And I've always prefaced what I tell him with, this is just my opinion, for better or worse. But to not be defensive puts you in a position to absorb and learn a whole lot more. And
sure.
He's ridiculous. I mean, the scope of his experience with music, listening to music, his guitar playing is gone to a whole different level. I mean, there's good, there's great, and there's a very special place, and he's there. When he was playing, it was like 16. Somebody said to me, were you that good at his age? I go, I'm not that good now.
I want to give a shout out because me and my writer Morty worked really hard on this for the last week and a half. But Morty has an Instagram and a TikTok page where he and his daughter sing, and they've done more Kiss songs than any other. In fact, you reposted one of their videos that they shot right before they went into their second of 3 Kiss concerts, including your final one at the Hollywood Bowl. Do you have the picture? Yeah. Put the picture up.
Let me pull it up. Hold on.
Yeah, it really meant even
So
more to him
great.
because his father had recently passed away. He took him to his first concert when he was around her age to see you guys at Magic Mountain to film Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. So this is just one small example of the legacy that you guys have provided to a grateful fan base. Did you put the picture up, JT?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up one moment. But Morty's here to say hi. And thank you. I mean, it was really sweet what you
It really was, yeah. Well, while you're pulling that up, let's dig into Black Diamond because I know we only have a little bit more time. Originally, the final song on your debut album, this has become and remained the band's last pre-encore song and displayed all the stage theatrics from spinning sparks and fire to a riding hydraulic drum riser where the front line performed their choreographed moves. Although you sing the intro, you then hand off the lead vocals to Peter, and it, along with Beth, a few years later, have been a showcase concert moment for each subsequent drummer in the band, which became Eric Carr and finally Eric Singer. Where did the magnanimous diplomacy to give away the defining spotlight come from?
I'm not afraid of being fired. I'd like to think, for the most part, that within the band at its finest, we've always been more concerned with what's best for the band than what's best for the individual. So for me, yeah, initially I was singing Black Diamond, but first of all, Peter really wasn't writing songs at that point, and he had a very cool voice. So I love the contrast sometimes, whether it's Black Diamond or I Want You, songs that start off one way and then blow up into something else. So Black Diamond has always been a staple. It's very difficult. Where do you go from there? So live, you're certainly not going to do that in the middle of the show. So our shows have always tended to be not scripted, but planned for arcs, for reaching peaks and then coming down. It's not a matter of, hey, let's just put together a set list. That's fine for some bands, but that's never been what we were about. It's about the pacing and building to climaxes. So Black Diamond, Peter, when Peter was in the band early on, he was possessed. I mean, his playing was just. I still look at some of the footage, and he was just on fire, and his singing was just so passionate. So it made sense. It worked. It was. Hopefully, you can say, "Hey, something's better for me not doing it." God of Thunder. I was heartbroken when I didn't get to sing that, and we had a producer at the time, and our decision between Gene and me was, we'll let him decide who does what, because we could reach impasses at some point. So I brought in God of Thunder, and Bob Ezrin, our producer, goes, "Oh, that's great. Gene will sing it." And I was like,
decision made.
Just devastated. But
that's rough.
It was right. It was right. I mean, it's Gene's song. And yeah, I'd like to think that I'd like to think that ultimately at our best, regardless of who's been in the band, because you can have people in the band who no longer feel like they once did. So I'd like to say that at, at its best, when the band is operating as it should, everybody is more concerned with Kiss. What are we going to do to make Kiss better?
Right.
Yeah,
100%. That has to come first, right? Here's the image of
Yeah,
the
she's
tweet that you put out there.
so cute and
So cool.
really, what's more important than our kids? I mean, what's more
Yeah.
important than our kids or children? And I love that connection. Always have. I love that connection of meeting kids at the shows, of getting down to their level, so we can look eye level into each other. And you know, becoming a parent is anybody can be a parent, but being a good parent.
Oh, he's great. He's a great dad, and I
Good
mean, his
dad.
daughter has seen more concerts than probably all of us
Than
combined.
me.
I mean, well, definitely you, JT, but you're going to like raves in Ibiza. All right, with only a couple other tracks I really want to mention. I mean, Rock and Roll All Night. I mean, if you have to name one iconic Kiss song that will live forever, it would be this single from Dress to Kill via this live single version. Because you have here, and it's rarely talked about with you. I want to bring up the legendary audience encouraging raps at your shows, with often being with you addressing the audience as people. How did that develop? Like, obviously you've honed the craft, but starting so early, you really were a cross between a preacher and a cheerleader for rock and roll. So how did that develop?
I saw Humble Pie, fantastic band, in the late 60s. Steve Marriott, who arguably is one of the greatest rock singers of all time. I saw them in New York, and he was a preacher. He was up there. This guy, he had a Les Paul that looked like a giant Birdland guitar. I mean, he was so little, and this guy was up there just singing to the balconies and preaching between songs. Just there was so much in that, and I was just like, I want to be that. I want to be a preacher. I want to be up there. I want to be a game show host. I want to be the person who not manipulates, but directs things, and from the stage can feel out the audience and help to bring them to whatever level is possible, to cheer them on, to have a great time, to is it shtick? I think it's being a cheerleader. I think it's giving you the license and giving you the license to be yourself, to have freedom. So my raps and everything, I have no idea where they came from. I'm proud of them, and there's certainly enough of them to make a box set just out of those. But it's all been genuine. It's not like it's I think you can embody a part of yourself. It's not creating a character as much as magnifying a certain part of who you are. I'm not a ham. I'm the whole pig.
Well, I know you're a Soul fan too, and I have the painting of Otis Redding there in the background, and it's like, I think we all take from the greats we watch, and it's like, so like if you had to name some of the people that you're just, besides who you already mentioned, but like who are you an amalgamation of on stage? Like if you really had to pick your Mount Rushmore.
I would say I'm inspired by Robert Plant, Steve Marriott, Sam Cooke,
Yeah, yes. Oh, love Sam Cooke.
David Ruffin. Um, there's so many, and diverse. I mean, it's the idea of just being influenced by people who do what you do. It's it's more often being influenced by people who don't do what you do.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. All right, let me go rock and roll. Speaking of letting go, you've made so many departures from Kiss in your career, including performing in Phantom of the Opera on Broadway. You have your painting career and putting out a fabulous collection, like we just mentioned, of soul covers and new originals with your side project, Paul Stanley's Soul Station. But the thing that we've repeated here today about Kiss is your loyalty to the Kiss Army and never letting your fans down. So even though the tours are over, you guys have recently announced the epic experience Kiss Army Storms Vegas, set to take place at the Las Vegas Virgin Hotels November 14th through the 16th this year. This ultimate Kiss experience celebrates Kiss Army's 50th anniversary and the 30th anniversary of the first Kiss fan convention. Just reading about all the live performances with you guys and other members of this Kiss camp, as well as the highlights from the Kiss Army, has come to expect is going to make this another must-see event. Please go to kissonline.com for all information and guarantee you get tickets before they sell out. How excited are you about this? And you know, what should people be expecting, or any surprises you can tease here?
This will be, for lack of a better description, it's a Kiss cruise in Vegas. You know, it's a Kiss cruise without a boat, without a ship. We'll take over the Virgin Hotel, and all the things that people have come to expect on a Kiss cruise will happen. It's a chance for international fans and friends to convene, as they always have, and there'll be Q&As, be time spent with each person, in the band. We will play, although looking more like this than like in classic gear. It's going to be really, really cool, and a lot of things are being added to it. I would have liked to have perhaps had the menu to give to everybody a long time ago, but it's still evolving. So there'll be great people playing, great bands, all kinds of competitions, all the things that we've done in the past on the cruise, just like a tribal gathering with music and entertainment, and just like I said, it's a landlocked Kiss cruise.
Nice. I gotta ask, when and who created the Kiss Army?
The Kiss Army, like the best armies, was volunteer. Kiss Army started in Terre Haute, Indiana, when Bill Starkey, a resident, and his friends weren't getting any Kiss music on their radio station. And they called the radio station as the Kiss Army and said, if you don't start playing Kiss music by a certain time, we'll surround the building. And of course, everybody chuckled until they surrounded the building.
Nice.
So that was the start of the Kiss Army. Kiss Army started as not a calculated fan club, but as an uprising of the Army.
That's so cool. I just have to ask, because you had mentioned New York Dolls, but we had the manager. So fortunate to have Alice Cooper's manager, Shep Gordon, on the show. Told some great stories, but I'm just curious, what the connection was, what the relationship was, if there was one, with Alice Cooper through the years.
I love Alice. I love Alice. His wife Cheryl is amazing. Really, really, really good people. Really, really good people. And Shep, Gordon has been with them basically since the beginning.
Decades. Yeah.
And they're wonderful. And I remember when Kiss was first starting out, I went to Madison Square Garden to see and by starting out, I mean, no record deal. We were just in our loft rehearsing. But I went to Madison Square Garden and saw the $1 Billion Babies tour and was just blown away. I mean, it was the perfect combination at that point, balance of a theatrical presentation and rock and roll. That to me was the pinnacle. And I just remember being in the audience and just going, wow, this is great stuff. Not too far over the line. And Alice has always been a great guy. I more that than anything. Certainly there's some classic 18, Under My Wheels, Elected, and Bob Ezrin, who produced Destroyer and co-wrote songs with me and also did Revenge. Bob was a key component in the rise of Alice with those albums that really opened the door for him. But again, Alice is one of those people who's a good person who I always enjoy seeing.
Still putting on a great show. I just caught the tour with him and Rob Zombie this past summer, and I mean, with he is the guitarist Nita Strauss. I mean, she is just every pose, everything is just so rock and roll and planned, and she, I mean, you can't take your eyes off her, but because she's gorgeous and an incredible guitar player, but just at his, you always want to say at his age, but it's like, y'all, Rolling Stones, I just saw Paul McCartney at the Bowery. It's like nobody's slowing down. It's like, and then I look at my old Jewish parents and I'm like, why the fuck can't you do that shit? Like what did you guys do differently? Like
Alice, Alice is timeless and always has been.
Always.
Even that resurgence with Poison, that was when he did Poison.
Yeah, remember.
That was great. But it's hey, my dad made it to 101.
That's crazy.
Wow.
And totally with it to the end. And if we could have taken his head off and put it on another body, he'd still be with us.
He'd still be here, yeah. Please, whatever you got, give it to my mom. So we want to wrap this up. We have a lightning round that we ask all these questions. I want to throw something in on a little special place. This has been just phenomenal, Paul, and just so the fans are going to love this. We actually, our fan base is called the Fleece Army because one day I when I was younger, I spent $3,000 on fleeces, and somehow that stuck with our group. But I ask these questions to every artist, and there's going to be a little caveat in it. So, what is your favorite song on this record? There we gone? Oh no, is he freeze?
No.
Can you
did you hear what Josh asked?
I'm not hearing any songs.
Oh no! We're asking. Oh no! We're off of. Sorry, dude. For a second, I thought we all.
Anybody ever do this?
I mean, for a second, I was like, "Wait, am I having an acid flashback?" No, we're talking Kiss Alive. What is your favorite song off of Kiss Alive? There you
go. Rock and Roll All Night is a great one. I really like Deuce. It really, Deuce kind of epitomizes and really gels a lot of what Kiss is. So I like Deuce a lot.
Okay. Is there anything off of this record when you re-listen to it that you might skip over, or you're like, I wish we could have done that? Because it's rare that we have the actual guy that made the record. So usually the question would be, is what's your least favorite, or is there anything you skip over? But after re-listening to this record, is there anything that you're like, we should have shaved that off the set list, we should have changed this song, or do you feel that it's exactly what it should be?
I think that to get caught up in minutia
Yeah.
takes away from appreciating the entire experience. That's not what it's about. The impact of it is based on the totality of it, the magnitude of it, and to start, I don't like this one and I don't like that one. I'm like, who cares? You know, it's Kiss Alive is Kiss Alive is the statement. It's just it's resounding, and kudos to us and to Eddie Kramer for doing something groundbreaking, not just another live album. Well, honestly, who could give a shit about, you know, they're as boring a lot of times as some of the bands are.
Yeah.
Kiss Alive is like a sonic, you know, a sonic representation of the experience, not to be analyzed, but what does it do for you? How do you feel?
Yeah. So normally here I would ask, can you fuck to this record? But I think that would be odd. So I want to ask you a question about some lyrics. So from Come On and Love Me, I have to say these lyrics are adorable. They're like macho in the most youthfully naive way. She's a dancer, a romancer. I'm a Capricorn. She's a Cancer. She saw my picture in a music magazine when she met me.
Touched her hips and told me that she'd let me.
Yeah.
I took her hand, baby. This is what I said. Baby, baby, don't you hesitate, because I just can't wait. Lady, won't you take me down to my knees? You can do what you please. Come on and love me. Now, joie de vivre, that's what that is. That's like just the joy of exaltation of what we were experiencing. To actually go from almost fantasizing about something to actually being immersed in it.
Yeah.
I wrote those lyrics. I can remember right. I was on 52nd Street and the East River. I had an apartment, 1-bedroom apartment. And those lyrics came to me almost as quickly as I'm saying them.
Oh, wow.
It was just stream of consciousness, and it didn't take Moon and June or having to figure out a rhyme scheme. It just, you know, she's a dancer, a romancer. I'm a Capricorn and she's a Cancer. I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool.
That's rad. So I'm not sure how well you did with the ladies prior to Kiss's popularity, but how long into your career do you think until your real life started matching your aspiring rock star persona's braggadocio?
Oh my gosh. You know, I'd say definitely by Kiss Alive, it was full bore. I mean, you know, not to certainly before that, just being in a band and touring allows you to be a part of something that most people can't even imagine. You know, it's out of the realm of what you can imagine. But certainly by Kiss Alive, it was out of control.
I mean, there's such great lyrics. So this has been,
you know, song Room Service.
Yeah.
That was the same thing, just singing about being in a hotel and, you know, all the craziness. I mean, it wasn't bragging as much as it was celebrating.
Yeah. Well, you're really the sex love god on stage. I mean, you're the only one with red lips, and that really represents the Kiss and Kiss. I mean, the music, the stage persona, everything. It's just phenomenal. And I gotta say, just having you on today has been really a treat, and I think our fans are just gonna go bananas over this. And usually I would ask everybody what would be your elevator pitch to get someone to listen to this record, but how would you, Paul Stanley, the man behind this, how would you, what would be your elevator pitch to get someone to listen to Kiss Alive?
Boy. Boy, you see, look at that. All of a sudden, I'm tongue-tied. Wherever you are today, you should know where it started, and that's Kiss Alive.
It's perfect. Gee,
Awesome.
Paul, I can't thank you enough so much for coming on. This was just phenomenal. Thank you for taking time out. And please, like, we'll tell everybody about, and hopefully I'm going to try to make it out to that Vegas thing. That just sounds so incredible. There's a little thing that you guys have set up, because I perform at the Rio Hotel, and there's this there's that whole Kiss wing.
Yeah.
And it's phenomenal. But you know, being that I am now, like, I'd say I'm like a private, you know, or corporal. What's after private in the Kiss Army? But I'm moving up the ranks.
Where does Josh fall in the?
Yeah, where do you
Please
give me a ranking in the Kiss Army?
I would say that you're an honorary lieutenant.
There it is, dude.
Love it.
I'll take it. Thank you so much for coming on today, brother. This
So
has been great.
My
You're
pleasure.
the best, Paul. Thank you.
Appreciate it.